Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing quite like watching live sports. And if you do watch live sports, there is nothing quite like watching arch rivals. Two most competitive players or teams go head to head. Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you 4 epic chess games played in the semifinals of the second Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour event ongoing in Paris, France. Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana. That's a rivalry as good as any. They played for a world championship match. Fabiano Caruana was the only one not to lose to Magnus Carlsen in the classical portion of the World Chess Championships. He was 3 rating points away from Magnus Carlsen at that time. Magnus Carlsen himself has said that he has only ever considered one man number 2, and close to him on any given day, and that's Fabiano Caruana. And on the other side of the bracket, you have Hikaru Nakamura, the man who is threatening us with retirement constantly, versus Vincent Keimer, the Wonder Kid. He just beat Jan Nepomniachtchi. He beat Fabiano Caruana to win the last Freestyle Chess Grand Slam event. He beat Magnus Carlsen. He beat Alireza Firouzja. He's on a generational knockout run. Whatever you think of freestyle chess, because I know some people are saying, well, it doesn't matter. It's not regular chess. But here we go. Potential matchups in the in the final are Magnus versus Vincent rematch, Magnus versus Hikaru, which is epic, or Fabiano versus Hikaru, or Fabiano versus Vincent rematch. So here we go. All right. We are going to be looking at the games of the semifinals, and then we will look at the games. And that's all. And then I will give you an update on the overall standings. Get tickets for the European tour. All right. Some of the cities that are almost gone, especially the VIPs. All right. Freestyle chess, back row of pieces is shuffled. Fabiano opens the very first game with the move c4. We have knight to g6, and the knights come toward the center. Although I suppose this is not really the center because you don't really want to block your bishop. Both sides can castle here, and play would proceed. We have bishop to e5 played in this position. Bishop takes g6 is the move that Fabiano chooses. And then takes the pawn on c5. Now, around this moment, there was a very funny, really long sequence of moves that Magnus discussed. He calculated 29 moves here, which I can't even recite from memory. But I think it was something along the lines of like d4, cd4, knight d4, knight b6, b3, d5, something like this. Actually, I think like white even has like something here, and then like you still go here, and then you sacrifice, and then you get to like this position, and like knight e2, bishop b5, so something completely nuts. Like the bishop had already taken, or so I don't even know. But yeah, total chaos was the line. I mean, it was something completely insane. It might have been in this position, to be honest. Like here, if white played d4. And it was a sequence of moves that Magnus calculated 29 moves deep. And I was like, yo, dude's just like rubbing it in. He's just like, it's not possible to be that good. It's crazy. It didn't happen, though. You could watch it. It's a YouTube short on my channel. I've posted it everywhere. Rook b1 is the move. And now Magnus moves the bishop back. And Fabi takes on b7. And the queen goes to c7. Now, what ends up happening over the next little series of moves here is Fabiano is also, he's not castling right away. He doesn't want to commit his king just yet. He's going to lose his knight. It's a very deep idea here. He's going to lose his knight, but then he's going to advance the pawns in a way that he can win back the bishop. So if you take the knight right away, I obviously have a5, a takes b6. And also for a very brief moment, Fabiano is a pawn up, but he's going to end up having to give it up for the bishop. We have d5, c5, takes, well, not even a takes. We have the bishop double pinned by the pawns, queen to c6, and now a big trade, and this is the position. And when I actually woke up in the morning, I saw this, and I was like, oh, it's just an easy draw, because the pawns are all on the same side, so there's literally nothing. A through c has just been completely cleared off the board. On top of that, you have the opposite colored bishops, so basically all bishop endgames will be draw prone. The only interesting thing about this position is if you end up in a knight versus bishop endgame, like you somehow trade the knight for the bishop or the bishop for the knight, and then that will create a level of imbalance because obviously bishops cannot fight on the same color complexes as the knights. castles, knight to a4, and that's kind of what happened. I like this position from Fabiano, but the problem with an endgame like this is you need a target, like you need something. Like, you can't just roam around on the empty squares of the board and hope to achieve something. You have to win a pawn, you have to weaken the king, and at a high level, these guys are not going to blunder skewers, tactics. That's a tactic anyway. Like, at an amateur level, yeah, you just play the position forever and somebody just blunders or something, but queen c1 takes. Also, I just want to quickly let y'all know that, not that you asked, but I did see a few comments about it, and, you know, I never know if the people commenting are representative of the people that are watching and sharing a similar opinion, but are just too scared to write a comment or too lazy or just generally don't comment. I'm fine. I'm just suffering from really bad allergies this spring. I don't know why. So, like, my eyes are red, my face is puffy, my nose is just running like a track star. It's brutal out here, but, you know, we're getting through it. You all offer different remedies, none of which work. And I'm not getting shots because I'm terrified of needles. Anyway, Magnus here employs a very fascinating defense called the ping pong. It's a real strategy. He spends 10 moves moving his rook back and forth. And now he deviates really slightly because otherwise he would have hung his rook. And then he goes back. And then his rook zips around. But he's not. He's just going to win a pawn. And Fabi tried his best, but it's even down a pawn, the position is unwinnable. And this is just a draw. This is just a draw. What's funny about this position is it's actually just a draw even here, which is very hilarious, because white can put the king on g1, your light-squared bishop cannot remove the king from g1, and the knight just basically roams around the board. It's kind of hilarious. So, yeah, you see Fabi has the king here, and you see his knight, and this is just a draw because the king just literally eats both pawns. So the first game, very peaceful. Peaceful resolution, which means somebody probably wins this game. You know that because I told you in the beginning there's going to be 4 games. 2 in each semifinal, right? You can complain about a spoiler, but you have no idea who won. You know one of these guys won, though. Magnus Carlsen, white pieces. Fabiano Caruana, black pieces. By the way, in this game, this was the opening, c4, c5, and it was very unique. In this game, it was different, right? It was kind of a Slav defense. So we're just comparing openings of the 2 semifinals. Here we have a totally different setup. We have the bishops together, the knights together, and the king just barely making it in within the rules because you need the king between the rooks. Now, who wins? Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, rematch of the 2018 World Chess Championship match held in London, England. Another c4. Another c5, b3, b6, all right? Very natural to open up your snipers because they are all on the edge of the board here. What's interesting about this position, and by the way, you're going to see Magnus's favorite strategy here, which is the move d4. Even if it's not always the top computer move, it's up there. He loves to bring his queen out. He is unafraid of the knight jump that will attack his queen because what he ends up doing is very frequently repositioning it. I've covered Magnus playing freestyle chess. To me, the classical setup of chess is still far more interesting. I like freestyle chess in little batches, you know, kind of like dessert, or a drink every now and then, like, you know, everything in moderation. But basically, every time I show you a Magnus game, he is bringing a queen to the middle and moving it out of the middle straight down. He does this all the time. He's one of the few freestyle players who basically does this on a consistent basis. He doesn't care that he's losing time in his development somehow, because I think the trade benefited him, although I can't even understand how, because white lost the center pawn for a flank pawn. Maybe that just doesn't matter. Maybe the resulting setup, he controls his opponents much better. I don't know. I really have no idea. Fabi plays rook e8. And then at this point, there's a clip of Fabiano getting up from the board and tripping over the camera wires. That's never a good sign. Just psychologically, that's never a good sign. Like, you know, imagine I got up from the board here, from my computer, and just like tripped over. You'd be like, oh, that wasn't good, you know? And Magnus definitely grew a little bit in confidence when that happened. Obviously, hope Fabiano is doing okay. The bishop goes to b2, and yeah, you start looking at this position, you go, oh, wait a minute, this is like something, really. I like white's position a lot here. Fabi plays bishop b7, and, you know, it's kind of, it's a similar thing, right? But now, because Magnus never committed the second knight, he plays f3. This is now the imbalance created. So first of all, one guy has no C pawn, one guy has no D pawn. This queen is better than this queen. And I think what Magnus has learned from both playing games, analyzing positions, and probably looking at engine games, repositioning your queen from the corner to the center is a humongous advantage in this format. It is a massive, massive advantage. The queen in the corner just isn't special. It's just not special. It doesn't do anything. All right? Bishop f4, and now g3, and Fabi repositions the bishop. So this is the way he's going to, all right, he's going to put the bishop on that diagonal. He's going to move the queen in like this. And that's what he does. G6, h4, and now this move queen b8. It's given a question mark. It's given a question mark because he doesn't sense the danger. And what's interesting is that because Fabi moved this rook already, he moved that rook already, his king cannot go long. You understand? If he had not done that, well, first of all, he played rook e8 a while ago, but he was obviously afraid of some sort of knight f5. But if he had not done that and the game just sort of proceeded, he could have castled this way. I'm not saying it would have been the best move because you would have still had big problems. But because he moved his rook already, Magnus knows Fabi's king is going to stay on that side of the board. And out of nowhere, here comes an attack. A same side pawn attack because he understands the king is going to be stranded on that side. And since he is same side attacking Fabiano, Fabi has to be really, really careful. So he goes bishop to g7, okay? Magnus goes h5. It looks like it's just a matter of time. And now Fabi brings the bishop back to h6. And Magnus can't quite put him away. And now that bishop is actually kind of annoying. And here, white needs to play king f2 and put the rook on g1. Just put the king, defend, bring the rooks, and slowly improve. Magnus castles, probably sensing that, the king should probably leave this side of the board altogether, move the bishop up, slide the king to b1, get off of this diagonal. He evaluates that he has enough time. But now Fabi plays bishop g5, successfully getting out of the way of any more kind of sandwiching over here. Maybe knight f4 is coming, maybe h6 is coming, and black is actually going to create a defense along the dark squares, which is crazy. Bishop c2, knight jumps into f4, the center pawns are ready to go, and Fabi is defending himself along the dark square complex, which is really fascinating, and in fact, even trades the queens, and now he's doing just fine. Now he's doing just fine. It's a total momentum switch in this game. Incredible defending from Fabiano, who then immediately makes a mistake. e5 was an overcommitment. It was actually completely fine for black to play d6 and just castle. Even here, black can just castle the king. That's how you castle, because the king has to be between the rooks and you have to choose which rook is castling. He obviously didn't like something about this position, but e5 is too big of an overcommitment. The light squares get weak, the d6 square gets weak, this pawn is now far away from this pawn, and now Magnus has his bread and butter to work with, which is an endgame. Now watch as Magnus plays this endgame like a machine. First of all, he plays the move h6. The game review doesn't do this move enough justice. Like, the engine wants like b4, bishop a3, but h6, this is inspired by AlphaZero. This is inspired by neural net chess. This is how they play. They put pawns deep into the opponent's territory like this because in the long run, that pawn will make a difference. That pawn will make a difference. It doesn't allow the king to move up. It doesn't allow, and now what black should actually do is walk the king to the middle. That is what the engine evaluates. Fabi castles. And now Magnus begins playing like an engine again. Take as much space as possible. Pawn space in the endgame is crucial for winning it. Even if it's not going to be the most pretty or perfect system, he's just going to very slowly bring the pieces forward and just sort of argue like black can't do anything. If bishop here, rook here, infiltration here, Fabi's doing his best. He's defending himself. But bishop c4 comes in. The knight goes back to b8. And Magnus just gets to play b5. And he's winning. Fabi does pick up the bishop back. But at the end of the line, there's bishop takes e5. And guess what? It's the pawn on h6 that's the hero. It glues the king to the back rank, and he is unable to move up from it. But then Magnus Carlsen does something unbelievably uncharacteristic and rushes, plays a really, really nice idea, again, trying to utilize this poor king positioning with a beautiful pawn on h6, going for these pawns. But if Fabi had found king f8 in this position, bishop a7 is impossible, because after rook c7, the bishop is trapped. So then you have to play rook d8, king e7, rook a8. And this is definitely not what you want if you're playing with black, if you're playing with white, rather. So bishop b8 was totally unnecessary. He could have played basically any move. He could have played g5, rook d1, but instead he rushes, but Fabi must have just thought the game was already out of control, and he is unable to find the best defense. And look at this. I mean, again, this is the way engines break each other down, and of course an engine wouldn't have allowed that level of counterplay. But whether it's freestyle chess or traditional setup, Magnus Carlsen getting it done in the endgame fashion, squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and beating Fabiano Caruana, dropping him down to a battle for 3rd and 4th place. And folks, will we have a repeat? Magnus Carlsen versus Vincent Keimer, the first semifinal. Vincent Keimer is about to pull off the greatest knockout run in a very long time. Hikaru, Jan, Alireza Fabiano, and Magnus Carlsen. You beat those 5 guys in knockout matches in a row. Take a bow. First game against Hikaru. Hikaru has the white pieces. Let's see. Vincent came out, obviously, totally different game than the one that we saw in the first semifinal. This was, you know, this became a very open, complicated board. This one, much more closed, right? Totally different type of position. Vincent brought the bishop back to c7. Hikaru set up his bishops very nicely and played this move f4 to try to control the right knight. And this bishop, maybe he's going to castle. Maybe he's going to castle this way and start some sort of attack because Vincent castled. Hikaru didn't show his cards at all. He waited, he still didn't do anything. Now he castles this way because he decided castling the other way would have been a little bit too dangerous, and he's probably right. Pawn takes, bishop takes. Vincent Keimer, by the way, in this game, got a totally stable, totally nice position, and in the long run, it's actually probably Hikaru who has more problems than Vincent. You know, like Hikaru set up his pawns in a way, but black is the one that potentially actually poses problems to the white position. A3, rook f8, queen c7, and he's going to reposition the bishop to target Hikaru's queen to kick it out. Hikaru's still kind of threatening over here, and this is basically a draw offer, right? Hikaru here goes for reposition. He doesn't think he has anything. He's not thrilled with the position, more than happy to make a draw. Vincent says no. Vincent Keimer continues to play the game. He's like, no, I'm going to keep bothering you. Hikaru plays h3. Vincent has some small advantage. You know, f5, locking out the white pieces. The knights are pretty useless. The light squared bishop isn't anything special. Knight to h8 is a legendary move. Repositioning. Vincent, it feels like, is a step ahead of Hikaru in this game, who then plays g4, which is actually a pretty desperate move to push such a pawn in front of your king, right? He's sort of sensing he doesn't want to get locked down. Vincent gets the best position that he's had all game. This is incredible. He's just methodically picking apart Hikaru's play here in the middle game. It's b3, right? But now he has to do something. Plays queen e6, another improving move. The engine really liked c5, taking more space, and bishop d7. Again, not so clear how you actually capitalize on the advantage, Hikaru, right? Now c5, but now Hikaru gets to take on f5 just in time. Hikaru very clutch, perfect defensive timing, opens up the position, and now actually has a very nice bit of counterplay with knight g4, e4, stuff on the g file, stuff in the center, and Vincent just doesn't have enough time here. 4 minutes is just not going to cut it. Hikaru opens up the black king, and now both guys have a level of mutually assured destruction, so all the pieces fall off the board, and a draw is agreed, because it's just, you know, again, amateurs, you should play out this position because you will find a way to lose it with both colors, or win it with both colors. For these guys, they're not going to blunder anything. This is likely just heading for a draw. So they trade, and that is that, which sets up the 4th and final game of this recap, and then I will give you a full update about what happened in the battles of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, as well as 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in the matchups between Arjun Erigaisi and Jan Nepomniachtchi and Nojibek Abdusattorov and Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. So this game was c4, c5 like this, and this game was d4, d5, and pretty different, right? Ultimately, the same structure, relatively speaking, but in this game, Magnus got his queen out as early as possible, and, you know, Vincent put a pawn on d4, whereas Magnus played queen d4. What's funny is that d4 is actually considered the best move, according to the computer. So d4, Vincent clearly has a very high level of understanding here, and from the opening, he was just doing very well. He had a very clear advantage. 0.6, 0.7. Vincent Keimer understands this type of chess, man. Like, he gets where the pieces are supposed to go. But does he have a deep enough understanding of the middle game? Knight f3, f6, Hikaru trying to prevent the knights from being active. Rook d1. So now Vincent obviously is going to castle and play in the center like this. e6, h4. That's awesome, right? He's trying to go h4, h5, h6, weaken the structure. h4 might have been a slight overreaction, but it's a very, very thematic move. It happens all the time. Black plays h5. Both queens come out. The bishop goes out. But actually, from the opening, Hikaru got a perfectly reasonable position. He had his queen in front of his bishop. So he always has eyes over here. This bishop is ready to help. And there's no imbalances in the pawn structure. White traded a d pawn and a b pawn. Black traded a d pawn and a b pawn. And whereas in the Magnus game, you know, from the opening, there was imbalance. There was an imbalance of the queen position. There was an imbalance of the bishop position. And then there was an imbalance also of the attack. One guy waited and was patient and generated the play just at the right moment. And the other guy, you know, had to suffer the attack. Whereas in this game, I don't really know how you're going to, you know, pull it off. Vincent goes bishop b2 back, right? But bishop b2, this is already a bad sign. Hikaru put his knights like this versus these two knights, which are completely controlled. I think Hikaru's setup here was extremely clever. He disallows Vincent from moving forward the knights at all. Like, the entire forward path is blocked by the pawns. So Vincent has to find a way, like, what's he going to do? And now Hikaru goes this way. This is an indication to Vincent, like, we're not going to tie breaks. In the words of Paul Pierce, ain't no OT tonight. Was that Paul Pierce? No, I think he said I called game. Paul George was the one that said no OT tonight. No overtime. We're not going to overtime. One of us is going to go down. Queen a3, bishop b6, defending everything. It's actually not clear at all what Vincent can do. This is the worst position that I think he's had in quite some time in this format. Bishop c3. Queen a3, bishop b2, bishop c3. He's looking for something. Hikaru doesn't even want to allow him to trade anything. That's why he played queen c7. Vincent knight back to d2, just trying to make something happen. Hikaru knight h6. Right? That was the worst piece probably that he has, so he's trying to bring it forward. Rook e1, knight g4. If we trade, you open up my rook. So what do? Knight ef1. Now here comes f5. This is really bad. This is Hikaru in his element, man. This is candidates level Hikaru. Doesn't matter what the starting position was. Very high level understanding of the position. The white pieces just can't do anything. Vincent feels like a passenger in this position. He's just waiting for Hikaru to make the turns and the decisions, and then he will get out of the car. Queen c1 back. How many moves has that been? That's been like queen c3, queen a3, queen c1, right? We're just making triangles on one side of the board. Knight f6, not even the best move, by the way. Hikaru here could have played knight f2. If he found knight f2, they would have made him pee in a cup after the game. All right? They would have scanned him. King f2, f4. The knight is trapped. And if white tries to run back, you play queen c6, and you just reposition the queen. I mean, this is like otherworldly level stuff. Hikaru goes back because he wants to reposition. That's given a question mark because now white can play bishop e5, which Vincent plays. And now actually it's still very, very tense. But bishop a5, you look at the position, he's trying to give him away. He's trying to take the rook. White here can block or give up the rook. Vincent plays bishop takes f5. That's a bit of an overreaction. The crazy thing about this position is if white just plays f3, which blocks out the bishop and blocks out the knights from entering at all. After bishop e1, rook e1, the computer evaluates this bishop as the most powerful piece on the board. It actually thinks that white is just doing great. If the knight goes to d7, the bishop goes back to h2, and you cannot deal with the bishop. You just cannot deal with it. You play e5, you lose a pawn. You play g6 to play e5, rook d1, you play e5, queen d2, and I put a knight here. So, for example, you play knight f7, I play knight d5. You play bishop d5, probably take with the pawn or the queen. Hit this, hit this. This is so ridiculous that you just play f3 and you let the guy take your rook. It's like you just didn't realize that it was hanging. Vincent kind of does that, but he does it in a more thunderous way. And now after e takes f5, rook d6, rook, you know, there's a sequence of moves here, which gets here. And if you evaluate the position, right? Here, Vincent has an extra pawn. Black has 5 pawns, white has 6. In the thing that I just showed you, Vincent literally had to go here and not have the pawn. Vincent has no extra pawn here. But because the board didn't open, he's actually doing even better, which is absurd. Like, you know, black can, of course, just like run the king and, you know, but what ends up happening in the game is black has more space to operate. And so what does Hikaru do? He repositions his pieces, And the way you're going to win this endgame is trade down at the right moment or generate enough of an attack with your material advantage that white can't defend himself. And that's what black is doing. He's not rushing with the queen trade. You trade too many pieces here with black, you're not going to be able to actually win any pawns. So Hikaru waits, picks up a pawn. Now he has a pawn back, even though white is able to go here. What ends up happening is you trade it down to rook versus bishop. And rook versus bishop, I'm sorry, but the bishop just cannot defend. Rook c2, rook a2, Vincent just resigns. He resigns because of black's pawn. That's it. If black didn't have that pawn, it's probably close to a draw. But because that pawn is just going to promote, there's nothing white can do. He resigned. The magical run of Vincent Keimer has sadly ended. He drops down to a 3rd and 4th place matchup against Fabiano Caruana, which was a rematch of the final. So both guys from the final of the first event are in the 3rd and 4th place match, and it's Magnus versus Hikaru in the final of the second event. Just epic stuff, man. Epic stuff. There were some other matches going on. Arjun Erigaisi beat Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave beat Nodirbek Abdusattorov for the battle in the 5th and 6th place. I don't know how it works now. I think they play for 5th and 6th. Maxime and Arjun, and Jan and Nodirbek now play for 7th and 8th, if I'm not mistaken. As far as the 9th to 12th, I don't actually know how this works. I think Prague is 9th, Report is 10th, and then Vidit and Gukesh are 11th and 12th. I mean, I think that's how it works. To be honest, the format is a little bit confusing. And if you made it this far in the video, I'm actually going to give you a pretty big update. Jan-Henrik Büttner announced yesterday the 3rd event in July is not going to be in New York. It's going to be in Las Vegas. I knew that for a while as an insider of the chess world. I mean, I didn't know it was confirmed. I knew there was rumblings. It's going to be in Vegas, and the bigger format is that it's going to be, instead of 8 days long, the event is going to be 5 days long, and instead of playing 90-minute chess, they're going to play 45-minute chess, 2 games a day. So they're going to play 2 classical, like the whole semifinal, the whole quarterfinal will happen in 1 day, which is crazy. They're doing it to appeal to a TV format, because in a TV format, you have to know how long it's going to be, right? You have to know. And some days with the knockout and everything, like it can be a little bit longer. It makes sense, but it's also a little bit confusing for a few reasons, because chess is not quite a TV product. You might still have to have tie breaks, right? That's one big question mark. And maybe instead of tie breaks, you have some sort of just immediate Armageddon. But the other strange format here is that the battle for like 6th place is still going on while the championship has been decided. Like today, Magnus beat Fabiano and Hikaru beat Vincent, but 6th place was still being played for, which just, that would never happen in a tennis tournament. Like, you wouldn't have crowned the champion, but 2 dudes over there are still playing for 4th. You know, so that's one other format I would like to, see fixed. And on top of that, like, this entire tour was born because Magnus is advocating for classical chess in a freestyle format, which makes, sense. You need time to figure things out. But now even that is getting shortened. And maybe it's fine because they have experience. So now they don't need 90 minutes necessarily. But yeah, it's just interesting to see the format evolve tournament to tournament. And there's only 3 to go. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'll be there in Vegas. Maybe not. Guys, you know where to find me. Yeah, finals begin tomorrow. Magnus Hikaru. Get out of here.